Welcome to Emran's Podcast, episode number 121. This is your host, Suman Silwal. In this episode, I talked to the mayor of Running, Bart Yasso. We did chat a while back on episode number 26. Please do go listen to that. And also, I'd like to mention that I will be running BHM 26.2, either half or full year at Birmingham, Alabama. I'm just trying to figure out what I wanted to do post Lake Martin 100. I'm still putting a lot of videos. All the photos are out. Go to mruns.com and find a link or our Marathon Runs Facebook page. Also like to mention that MRuns will be out in Seven Bridges pacing the marathon, and also I have a 15% discount for all of you who wanted to run the Seven Bridges Marathon. The discount code is MRuns. Do register now when the price is very low. Enjoy this podcast, and we'll see you sometime soon. And thanks for being part of this MRuns podcast community. Quick note on that, I have officially changed the name on the SoundCloud from the Voice of Runners to MRuns Podcast. I always use that MRuns Podcast, never use Voice of Runners. So this will help to be consistent with what I have always said. So anyhow, nothing changes, but the show itself will now called MRuns Podcast, and it'll be easier for you to search. Enjoy the episode with Bart Yasso, the mayor of Running. I would like to welcome Bart Yasso to MRuns Podcast. Bart and I, we talked a while back, episode number 26. It's almost 100 episodes ago. It's been great to see Bart at Little Rock Marathon.
That's great.
I saw you announcing. I was like, oh, there's Bart. It was great talking to you, and great seeing you. You have come off, you have gone to retirement from running. I think you're still the mayor of running, but I don't know if they call you former mayor or still the mayor, or I don't know how that works.
I still get called the mayor. I did retire from Runner's World magazine. That I retired from January last year, January 2018. So that's been official for well over a year. But I still go to some events. I still want to stay connected to the running community. So still go to a few events, do some public speaking and race announcing and consulting with some races and stuff like that. So keeps me busy, but I don't go into the office much. I used to always be in a Runner's World office when I wasn't on the road, and those days are over. But I still get called the mayor of running. I don't know where that title came from, but it's kind of a fun title. So
yeah, I think I heard one of the podcasts how that all worked out, but definitely it was great to see you out there. Because when I heard you retiring, I was like, I don't know what happens to a runner after they retired. I mean, I know you retired from a job, but I was wondering you actually retired from running as well. So did you retire from running as well, or just a running job?
No, I'm still running a little bit, and I do a couple races here and there. I don't do a lot of races these days. The main thing I needed to do was cut back on travel. I really suffer with this Lyme disease stuff. What it does to your body, it really, it's not conducive to fly around the world like I used to. And I had to curtail my running tremendously, cut back on everything I do. But it's hard to, I struggle traveling these days, and I obviously struggle running. I wish I could run. But it's, you got to listen to your body and do what I can do. If I feel like I can go for a run, I go out and do it. But most days I don't have that option.
Yeah.
My body's a little too beat up to head out and run. So
yeah, I can relate a little bit of that one, because last week when I ran 100 miles, my body's pretty much beat up. I barely made a 5 miles on Saturday and said that's enough for the week. So,
yeah. If I'm having a good stretch, I'll run 100 miles in over a 6-week stretch, not in one shot. I did that stuff years ago, but I can't do it anymore.
So tell us about, as we are talking about, retirement, running retirement. You've been running for over 40 years, and now you get to that point. People ask me all the time, they say, when are you going to slow down? When are you going to stop? So I said I felt like I barely started, as I'm 11 year into running. So I was like, I felt like I barely started, but people always wonder, when do I stop or when do I slow down?
Yeah. Well, the good thing is, I mean, I hope to be a runner for life, so I hope I can at least run, even if it's only once a week the rest of my life. I would really like to keep doing that if I can. And I'm fine with just doing 3 or 4 miles here and there. But, I get that question a lot. How long can you keep going? And 40-some years takes a toll on your body. Again, Lyme disease took more of a toll on my body than all the running miles. But it's just, you have to listen to your body. Some people can keep going. I met that Gene Dykes guy this past weekend in Philadelphia. Gene, at age 70, ran a 2:54 marathon at age 70.
Wow.
And you meet someone like this and you're like, oh my God, what the, man, this guy is incredible. I mean, 2:54 marathon at age 70. And he does ultras, he does it all. So I'm always out there getting inspired by people. That keeps me going. But, again, physically, I just can't do a lot. So I just do what my body allows me to do. But, when I retired from Runner's World, I did have a great job at Runner's World. Being the chief running officer of Runner's World was a great gig. And I had it made. I mean, I worked at Runner's World 31 years, and everyone was shocked that I announced my retirement. Why would you retire from a great job? But I said, everything comes to an end at some point. There's an ending to everything. And I just felt it was more my health problems, because I didn't want to do the job half-heartedly. And I did it full bore, traveled the world, and loved it. Spreaded the joy of running and what it's all about on a global level. Because Runner's World was definitely a global product. We had 19 international offices when I was there, and so I literally went all over the world spreading the joy of running. Definitely. And I had that as a job. It was a pretty cool gig. But as I said, I realized that my age, my health, and the problems I was having, I had to step away. And I gave him a year notice when I was going to retire. So we worked it all out at Runner's World. I never wanted to retire from running, but, at some point, what I always say to what I say to myself, when the pain outweighs the joy, you got to start making adjustments and think, okay, is it really worth it? I always said I'm in a lot of pain when I run, but I really get a lot of joy out of it. And I'm in pain if I don't run, or whether, the pain I have is not brought on by running. So not running, I'm still in pain. So, I say, okay, if I can get a little bit of joy out of it, and I'm going to go out and do it. Just, take it easy and don't run far and stuff like that. I say that to myself all the time. When that pain is greater than the joy, or there is no joy and it's all pain, then I will completely step away. But I don't want to do that. I really would like to, keep running, even if it is only once or twice a week, and it is only 3 miles each time. You just got to do what you can do.
Definitely. That's a really important point, Bart. You brought that last week, doing the 100-mile. And
you get pain no matter if you have the greatest day, if the stars are aligned and, you just got that perfect flow, there's still pain in 100 miles.
Yeah, there's no what do you call it, skipping pain post 100. My problem was I had a lot of GI issues and pain everywhere, every part of my body. I could hardly talk. I think my voice is still not there yet. But I felt, after just getting over that and then watching my video now and all the video I took and my family took, slowly releasing them to marathon runs on the Facebook. Yeah. And this just brings me joy and the moment, what I have gone through. And it's just, I'm not done. I mean,
wow.
So it's just...
Yeah, I mean, if you finish 100, you still got a lot in you, because, you can back down the 50 milers, eventually back down to 50 Ks. If you're able to finish a 100 miler, you still got a lot left. So that's...
Yeah, a lot of time for me, it's a marathon is just a quick distance these days,
Right.
Yeah, I can go run a marathon and come home for lunch or something, So, when do you know, like as a runner, yeah. You haven't stopped, you mentioned that. I mean, how would we know when it's the end? Because
I think everyone's different. Some people really have endurance. Some people really have good recovery. I think it's a lot to do with the way you train, and then, your body's going to tell you it's time to back off or eventually, step away from it. And, but it is all about, I'm hoping, 99% of the people out there running are enjoying it and enjoying not only the running itself, but the benefits we get out of running and, just, keeping a good body weight and just being outdoors and loving life, So I'm assuming that 99% of the people out there running really enjoy it. So as long as you can keep it fun, a lot of people struggle with after they've been running a while and they start to age, they slow down, and nobody likes to slow down, but that's reality. And some people, that gets them out of the sport because they can't run as fast as they used to run. But I never looked at that as being a negative. I mean, that's just reality. So I embrace the slow down and what happens when you get older. It's what happens to everyone. It's not unique to me or anyone else. It's just the way it is. So I never let that bother me.
I mean, every part of your body, regardless, whatever you do, whatever field you're in, you're gonna slow down,
Yes.
But sometimes my doctor says, as an athlete, they slow down a lot. You may need to want to slow it down. It's like, I'm not there yet.
Yeah. But I will say this, Zuma, I would like people to think long term. So don't get into the sport and try to run a bunch of marathons and then, a year later you wiped yourself out. That's not the way. I did always look at the sport. I wanted to be involved for a long period of time. When I first started, I didn't think didn't have that mindset. I want to be a runner for life, but I certainly knew I wanted to be a runner for a long time. And, after you do this stuff a couple of years, you got a different perspective on things. And at some point I realized, okay, I really want to be a runner for life because I love all the benefits I get. So I do think that way on all my training runs. And I do, a lot of the people that I ran with back in the 70s and early 80s that never took it easy. They ran every mile full out. I mean, they pushed every training run. Of course you push during races, but they would even run really fast in training runs. And I was more, I did more distance and certainly did speed work and hill work and tempo runs and all that stuff. But on the easy days, we ran easy. And I find the people that just did high, real quality, real fast runs all the time, none of them that I know run anymore. None of them. But people that did more long, slow distance stuff and, didn't kill ourselves on every run. We certainly did fast workouts. But on the easy days, we really took it easy. Those are the people I find that I talk to that 40 plus years, 50 plus years, 60 plus years. So it's amazing. Galloway, I think, hit over 60 years that he's been continuously running.
60 years.
60 years. And Amby Barefoot, gentleman who won the book, of course, Jeff Galloway was an Olympian in 1972, and I worked with him at Runner's World for many years, and I've known Jeff for 40 plus years. Jeff's been continuously running 60 years. And Amby Barefoot, who I worked with at Runner's World for 31 years, Amby's, I think he's at 58 years of continuous running. And you're talking about a guy who won the Boston Marathon. So, I mean, he ran at a very high level and is still out there doing marathons in his 70s and, looks great, runs well, and, he's in great shape. So it can be done.
It can be done.
For a long period of time. But I can tell you this, those guys worked in the industry. They really thought long term. They don't run nearly not even, when I say they don't run as fast as they used to, they're running probably half the pace they used to be able to run. But they're still out there and they're still getting joy out of it. They're still part of the community and they absolutely love it. So those are the people I kind of like to follow and see if I can stay involved in this sport. But again, at a much lower level than I used to do.
Definitely. Yeah, one other thing for me is always from the beginning I'm late starter and all. So I always been a slow racing fast. People usually used to say, where did that come from? Yeah, I have no idea. Still goes like that. And, I don't train hard. I'm opposite of training hard. But I do race hard. When there's a race, I'm just gone. So a lot of time, kind of sometimes I look at it as like you said, benefits me because I am not pushing as hard and I can do so many races. At the same time, I'm not training hard to get a good time every race. That's I don't know how that all plays out. But listen to you, maybe it plays out well.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the first 15 plus years that I did running, or actually probably even 20 years, every race was a race. I ran as hard as I possibly could. But I just remember going to a race at some point where I just said, okay, Runner's World is sending me these races every weekend. I'm not going to be able to run marathons every weekend at a high level. So I just went out and did one, just for the joy of it. Didn't push the pace. And I was like, wow, okay, you can do this. And, I did that occasionally and it was fun to do. But, you gotta decide what you want to get out of the sport. Do you want to run, a couple marathons and run them really fast? Do you want to do the world majors and run in all 50 states? Whatever you're going to do, you really should have a plan that you can accomplish that. So if you're doing them in all 50 states, it would pay not to, go all out because you probably run, some guys, some runners do, 20, 25 plus marathons a year. So it'd be hard to run all out if you're doing that kind of quantity of marathons.
Yeah, I'm like I do like a 12 to 13 a year, depending what calendar look. I think I've done 16 marathons and ultra marathon in 1 year. I think a couple of years I maxed out on that. But for me is I have taken on pacing, like you said, so that I don't pace. I pace a lot slower than I usually race, hour and a half. Yeah, slower than I usually race. So usually it's manageable speed for me. So that way, I'm out there, like you said. So that's kind of pacing has kind of helped me to be out there, slow it down, and once in a while I just show up a race, I just go fast. So
Right, my go fast days are over for sure because I have all these neurological problems on the right side of my body, and my body just won't react. It just doesn't work. But I do go out, do a couple marathons or half marathons. I mean, I go as fast as I can go, but it's not fast. And, I just can't do the mileage and training. So, it's just not going to be, usually when I do a marathon, I get to about mile 12 and I'll check my time and I'll go, okay, I used to be finished. And now I got 14 miles to go. This is crazy. But, hey, I'm out there and, I make the best of it and try to keep it as fun as I can.
Definitely. That's for me, it's a pacing. I usually say I'm bringing a so I'm bring so, and I have a lot of fun pacing. Yeah. So I'm headed to London. That's my next pacing gig. So.
Oh, cool.
You used to pace London, correct?
I've never done London. That's one of the ones I should have done. It always conflicted with Boston a lot of years, so I should have done London years ago, but I never did it. Now that it's a world major, which is now a big deal, I didn't have the world majors when I was serious about marathon.
Yeah, I'm pacing London and Berlin this year, and that finishes my world major. So,
yeah, so that's the way to do it.
Yeah, I pace 3 out of 6 now. So
wow,
so that's not bad.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And so I get to see the world and be with the runners, and at the same time slow it down. So
yeah, good for you, man. That's an awesome way to do it.
Yes, definitely.
You help people out, which is really good.
Yeah.
Get to do the race, help people, and accomplish a goal all in one. It's a good,
yes,
it's a win-win situation, as they say.
Yeah, win-win-win. So yeah, it's a lot of time we look at. A lot of time you say, "Oh, I'm about to pace 5:30." Last time I paced 5 hours, it was one of the race, Seven Bridges Marathon. I organized the pacing there, and I didn't have anybody. It's like, okay, I don't want to. That was a 5-hour group. I usually race that race, and I said, okay, I'm just gonna go pick a stick and just go pace. And I was not too happy because I had to pace. I couldn't find anybody. I said, okay. But the amazing thing is for me is like I found people who ran with me, and they were so thankful.
Yeah, that's good.
That's like we now we keep in touch, and that's like you think like, oh, who's going to be there? And one lady found me. Is like, I couldn't believe I didn't see anybody in 5 hours. I want to run now. I'm found you, and I'm not leaving you. And it's like
that's cool.
So it's there's always a runner out there, regardless which pace group, and they need help, like you said. So
yeah, well, pacing has taken it's now in almost every race. It was a rare thing. I was around when it all started. Actually, Runner's World really started it back in 1995. We went out to the St. George Marathon, which was known as a fast course, to get people to qualify for Boston 96, which was the 100th running of the Boston Marathon. So we wanted to get as many Runner's World readers into the 100th running of the Boston Marathon. So we came out with this idea to pace people, and it worked. And then we paced a couple more races. Eventually, first big race we paced, the Runner's World Pacers, was Chicago in 97. And then we did some of the rock and roll races, and then people started doing it in the old days, it was just the Runner's World pace teams. And then, people started figuring it out. And now there's a lot of pace groups out there, which is great because it is a big help to a lot of people.
Definitely, yeah. I do pace for the marathon pacing, and I go to Chicago, and I pace Chicago. I'm like a permanent 4:30 pacer now there. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I paced Chicago in 97 and 98. I did a 3-hour pace group there 2 years.
Those are the fast guys. Yeah,
I don't think they do the 3-hour anymore. I used to be able to run 3-hour marathon. I could do that every weekend. It was so easy to do, and now it's things change, man. Let me tell you. I love doing that at Chicago because that was really well. And that, looking back, it's so much smaller than it is now. But we thought it was massive because there were, I think in 97 it was about 18,000 runners in the race, and we thought that was massive. And it was massive for the times. But
I mean, it's still big, So it's still big.
1,000 these days, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's pretty big. I mean, the way the corral has set up is different. I think we have 7:30 start, 8 o'clock start, and 8:30 start. Right. So this is, I feel bad for 8:30 start because it's just too long a wait. These days, the Chicago, I don't know your time, whenever you ran, how it was, but nowadays it's a little hot. Last several years has been a little hot.
Yeah, there's been some warm days. I've been to the race a lot of years. I've only run it probably a handful of times, but I've probably been to the race 20 plus times. Yeah, I was there a real hot year, whenever that was, 2007 or something.
Yeah, and that's the year I started. Yeah, right before. Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But they also had some very good weather in Chicago, so it's
Yeah.
No.
It's fun race. I love it. So that's why I go back, go there. It's almost my hometown now. Once a year, I even know the turns and all the little what do you call towns and
the little neighborhoods,
neighborhoods, and all those. So
it's a fun day. The city really embraces that race. It's very, very fun.
Yeah, definitely. So let's kind of focus back to our we drift off an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, with two runners talking about things they love to do, So the listeners like, what are they talking?
You got to get back on topic.
Yeah, if the listeners, if you haven't done Chicago, you should do it at least once. I just recommend. And if you need a pacer, I'm there 4:30.
Yeah.
I'll be there singing and dancing and hollering. So let's get back to the topic, talking about the running, the lifetime running. So Bart, like people like me, we look at, I'm about to get to age 50, so. A lot of middle age or, beyond middle age, I guess. A man like us. I mean, do I really need to slow it down? Even if there's no sign, okay, I have no sign saying I need to slow down. Of course, like we said earlier, that it hurts. It's going to hurt. Yeah. I'm willing to put training, but looking from your end and all the people and your experience in the industry, tell us, do I need to slow it down?
Yeah. Well, I think, I would just be, I wouldn't say so much slow down. I think maybe as you get into your 50s and late 50s, you're probably going to race less than you could in your 40s and 30s. And that's going to help you long term to stay involved with the sport. And the other thing I suggest, once people have been in the sport 10, 12 years and get up in their 50s, 60s, cross-training is key. Take a day off of running and do the elliptical or go for a bike ride or go for a swim, whatever you can do to keep the fitness up, but give your body a break. It's going to keep you in the sport longer. And the two important words when you get up in your 50s, 60s, 70s, strength and flexibility. You have to keep your posture. You need that core strength, but you also need the flexibility, because if you're not flexible, if you just get so stiff, you just can't keep running. And that's where I think that I find that people that abandon the sport just because it's no fun anymore for them, and they don't like slowing down. But it's not so much what I think. There's statistical data that shows when you go. If you go to a big marathon, take Chicago as an example, because we were just talking about it, look how many runners there are in the 50 to 54 age group and the 55 to 59 age group, and then you go to 60 to 64. In the 40s and 50s, it's still pretty good numbers, a lot of people. When you get into the 60s, it drops off tremendously. And in the late 60s, it drops off even more. And then over 70, it's literally you see a massive drop. So that's the data's there to look at. So if you want to keep doing this for a long period of time, I'm going to suggest that you do a couple things so you can keep doing this for a long period of time.
That's a great suggestion, Bart. I think whatever you just mentioned will apply to the young runners who's barely starting or wanted to go further. If you're in 30s, 50s are so far away for you. Yeah,
you got what we call fresh legs. You don't have a lot. Don't have a lot of miles on your legs. Go for it. But when you get to be like me in mid 60s and have well over 100,000 miles of running on my legs, it's
100,000.
It's cold, trust me.
Yeah. So.
But again, if you want to keep doing this, that's what I suggest to do. Keep that strength and flexibility by going to the gym. Figure out some cross training that you like to do, and that suits you best. Whether that's bike riding, swimming, elliptical, deep running in deep water. I absolutely love. You can really keep flexibility by running. If I'm ever in a hotel and they have a swimming pool where there's one part of the pool is 7 feet or 6.5 feet, you will always see me in that pool running. I run in deep water, and man, it really helps my flexibility, and there's no pounding, and your heart rate goes way up. It's awesome.
So whenever you do the deep water running, do you wear your shoes or you just run barefoot?
barefoot, but I never use a flotation device. You can use a flotation device around your waist, and it'll keep you afloat.
Mm-hmm.
But I use my body to keep me afloat, and I literally do a exaggerated running motion underwater with my arms and my legs. I don't need a flotation device because I do it so quickly that I stay above the water.
But you're not running across the pool. You just stay in one.
Momentum just takes me across the pool.
Got it.
And then if there's no one in the pool, I will go to an area that's like 3 feet deep and run back and forth in 3 feet of water. Which again, then you're actually touching down on your toes and exploding off the ground, but you're in water and you get that buoyancy from the water, and it's very helpful.
Got it. That's a great point. I've done a little bit of walking or running in the water, but you get in the pool, there's too many people.
It's hard to do. I agree, but occasionally I get that it really works out, or you're at a YMCA and it just there's not a lot of people and you can do some deep water running. It's an awesome workout.
Definitely. Also, what I have done last 4 or 5 years now, doing the trail running, which is low key, slow. Your speed is definitely very slow there. For many reasons, including you got to watch where you're going.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I have done trail running has helped me, I think, to keep afloat. That's the only problem is you roll your ankle too often. Yeah, I've done most of my lifetime miles. I would say probably 60 to 70%, somewhere in there, of my lifetime miles have been done on trail. And I love the soft surface. I don't ever turn my ankles. I don't know. I must have strong ankles because I never turn them. But I just love trail running. I love the idea that, a lot of times like you said, you don't even think about pace. You just go out there and do it. And because it's not like a road where you're checking your per mile pace all the time. And when you're trail running, uphill, downhill, rocky areas, tough single track is going to be slower. So you don't really think about pace so much as like you do when you're out on the roads. But I think it's a nice way to break things up, and the soft surface is really helpful. Yeah, the one thing I just want my listener to understand that trail running sometimes is not for everyone. A lot of people don't like it for many reasons.
Man,
had to deal with many things related to the trail, So including bugs and critters and snakes and.
I have some really good friends. I mean, really talented road runners that just could never make the transition to trail running. They just couldn't do it. They just didn't like it. They weren't good at it, and I said, hey, stick to your strengths. Stay on the road. You're good at it. No problem.
That's what I said to them. If you don't want to do it, I will never push anybody to trail.
Right.
Right. I don't push anybody to running at all. But
sure.
You have to want to do it. So, and but even there, trail running, it has its own ups and downs, and like you said, the road running. There's so many trail runnings these days, and my friends, they have burned themselves, running so many more hundreds than they can handle.
Yeah.
Things like that. So it's not you always have to watch it, I guess, for running, so we don't get burned.
Yeah. Burnout is not good, whether it's physical burnout or mental burnout. And I find a lot of my friends that do 100-mile races, and even now they do these 200-mile races are starting to be popular.
Yes.
I find mental burnout is, part of the whole situation. If you've never done a 100-mile race, so when you do one, you'll find out that you can talk yourself out of a race. I mean, you got a lot of hours to do it. Even if you're running at the highest level, you still got 12 hours to talk yourself out of doing this race, or you got 12 hours to keep yourself in the race and keep going. So it's
they literally happened to me last week when I was running, last weekend when I was running, the weekend before when I was running Lake Martin 100.
Yeah.
I literally decided that I'm not going anymore.
Right.
That's it. I was like, okay, I'm going to sit down here. I'm not going anywhere. And then they said, okay, let me bring you a blanket. You sleep a little bit and wake up and you decide. And then I said, okay. Then I woke up. I was like, okay, let's go.
Well, that's good.
Because I was just tired.
I always tell people if they're really unsure if they want to do 100 miles or even 50 miles, I always tell them, do one of the 24-hour races or a 12-hour race or even a 6-hour race you can find. And then see how much distance you cover, and then you're going to get a feel for it. And a lot of those races that, like a 12-hour race are usually in a set area, and then so if you really realize you're in over your head, you can just stop. And, it's no big deal. And then you can find out, like, okay, do I really want to run? So say you covered 40 miles in this 12-hour race, then you can look yourself in the mirror and say, do I really want to do another 60 miles? Do I really have it in me? You can find out a lot if you're cut out for doing the real long stuff or if you're not cut out for it. I like those 12-hour events, that reason. I think it brings people into the ultra world, and then they find out if they really like it or if they don't like it. And it's a good format to learn.
Definitely. Talk about that. I have a friend who does 48 hours, and he's been trying to get me there. 48 hours run. So that's just out of my league at this time because it's just too much for me. I cannot talk about mental burnout, and those races really.
The whole weekend.
Yep. Even 12 hours just gets me. I do once a year to raise money for Nepal, which is coming up in May. But other than that, I don't do any of this timed event. It's just so hard. I have done 2 of them. Like I've done like a 1 mile loop for 50 miles, 55 miles. Like, oh man. So, but like I said, if everything's cut out for everybody, not everybody can do what other people can do. That's one thing I haven't noticed. And some friends, they love it. That the small loop, you know exactly where your stuff are, and you can sit down and eat, and so that's one way to keep going and keep your longevity is to run some of these distance races and try to figure out if you are cut out for such a thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. You really find out what the sport's all about, and then if you want to keep doing it.
So Bart, so looking forward for you for years to come. So what do you see your role in our running community? You've been in part of this community for 40 plus years, and you continue to be part of it. What's your role as you go forward?
Yeah, so, you said in the beginning, I still get called the mayor of running. I don't know whoever gave me that title or coined that title for me, but I've been hearing it for 20-some years. And when I go to a race, I was just at the Philly Love Run this past weekend. I was working with the Philadelphia Marathon people. And, the running space, it's just so much fun. I had a blast when I was there and met, some new people just new to the sport, which is kind of cool. And, talked to a lot of my friends that I've known for many, many years that are still out there running. So I want to stay connected to the running community, but, just on a much smaller scale than I used to with my old job at Runner's World. So if I can go to maybe 10, 12 events a year and, do some of my public speaking, motivational speeches, and race announcing and things like that. That's what I'm going to keep doing. I'll just see how my health holds up, and if I can keep doing that a couple more years, I'd like to keep doing it. But if the doctors want me to back off completely, I'm going to do it. Let's see what I really believe in my Lyme doctor, and I stand by what he suggests I could do. And I did a bunch of treatments last summer, and he told me after I was done with my treatments, he said, well, I think you can go out and start running again. So I did. I backed off tremendously while I was doing the treatments. I didn't have a choice, actually. I don't think I could have run if I wanted to, but I would go out for a run. I'd get my treatments, these blood irradiation treatments, and it'd wipe me out for a couple of days. So I always went for a run after I had the treatment because I felt good right afterwards, and then I knew down the road I was going to be pretty wiped out. So it's kind of funny to leave the doctor's office and go for a run. Probably, and then I knew I couldn't run for the next 3 or 4 days, but then I'd start to feel better and get out there. But when I say I went for a run, I was talking 3 miles, something like that. But that felt good to do.
Definitely, that's 3 miles is 3 miles. So
stay together. I'll continue to go out there, but again, it's at a much smaller scale, and I get to choose where I want to go, and I tend to go to races where I have a great relationship with and friendship with, but I'm open to anything. I still get invites to go to races all over the world, but I suggest that I give them some advice on who they should seek. Because I really, I just can't, like I said, I just can't do the travel. Physically can't do it.
So one thing I was thinking, you have been suffering with this Lyme disease for a very long time, correct?
Yeah, since 1990.
So how does this kind of disease, or terminal disease for runners, how much does it help to be an endurance athlete to fight this kind of things? You've been fighting for such a long time. I mean,
The emails I receive probably on an average 3 or 4 emails every day about Lyme disease from total strangers. And I don't know if they're just Googling Lyme disease and they somehow come across me. I have no idea how they find me, but I get these messages through Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or they find my email address somewhere and they just send me a message. And the messages I get from people are in such worse shape than I am. And, when I was going for my treatments last summer, I was getting these treatments weekly. There were other people in the room I was in that were getting the same treatment, and they were suffering pretty badly. And I'll tell you what, they all looked worse than me. And so I thank my lucky stars, and I firmly believe that my fitness is what the difference between the people that I would see when I get my treatments and also the people I communicate with that reach out to me. These people are bedridden and, it's ruined their life. And I have friends that I just had someone the other day that from Bethlehem where I live that died from Lyme disease, and people going blind. And it's amazing what's happening to people. So I feel pretty darn lucky. It's certainly problem with me. I contracted it 4 different times since 1990, and when I got it in 1990, they didn't know what it was. That was the big problem because I was really sick, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And it's just because Lyme was pretty new at the time, and doctors in Pennsylvania weren't thinking Lyme. But then I told them, when we narrowed it down, when I started getting sick and when I really went downhill, I said, oh, yeah, it was right after I did this race in Connecticut. And as soon as I said the word Connecticut, this doctor just ran out of the room, and he came back with a journal that he had, which was all about Lyme disease. And, and then they looked for the bullseye, and I had the rash on my neck. So the stars lined up once that. But if I didn't say that word Connecticut, they probably would have figured out. But at that point, I was stumbling around for 3 weeks to a month, just sick as a dog, and they couldn't, I thought it was the flu, and then, they just kept testing me for everything, and eventually they figured out what it was. But it took a while, and then going untreated for so long really hurts you.
Definitely. So the Lyme disease, is it primarily comes from the ticks, or is it some other?
Yeah, it is the tick bite that gets you. So it has to be the deer tick, In
Okay.
Pennsylvania, we have tons of the wood tick, they call them.
Mm-hmm.
Really the one you pull off your pets that go in and fill up with blood.
Mm-hmm.
The tick is so much smaller, and they're actually hard to see. But once you get bitten, there's not everyone gets the rash, but most people do. But that's how I found my 4 infections was I got the rash and the bullseye, and then you could actually find the tick bite, and and then you just got to get on the antibiotics right away. But what happens is it never leaves your system, and you put up with residual side effects all the time. But every time it seems like every time I get it, I get worse and worse and worse. So hopefully I'm never going to contract it again, and I can just deal with the problems I have and keep doing what I'm doing. But absolutely, my fitness level helps me, and helped me when I got sick, and still helps me to this day.
Definitely, sounds like it. Yeah, talk about it since we switched this topic a little bit. I was not intending to do that. And you've been in this, fighting this, and now that spring is here and summer is going to be here.
Yeah.
Tick season is arriving. So, what is the best way for our running community to, especially my trail running community, to think about going out?
But you got to check for ticks when you're done. But the best thing you can do is wear like high socks. When I'm running in cooler temperatures, I have socks over my whatever tights I have on my legs, and so I don't give the ticks a chance to get in anything. But they still can get in your socks or your shoes. You just have to really be cautious. And I was cautious, and I still got it somehow. So when the deer tick is in the springtime, they are so small. They're the size of a pepper flake, and you can barely see the things. And then when I take my shower, man, I really do everything I can to make sure there's no ticks on me when I wash my arms, legs, or my whole body. Make sure I check everything, and just hope for the best at that point, because I don't want to stop running on trails. I really enjoy it, so I hope I can continue doing that.
Yeah, I have had that a few times. They're stuck in your thing, and you take them out and kill them. So I haven't had any symptom or anything like that, but they're there, so they're coming. So
they are there, there's no doubt about it.
So,
but yeah, you got to just be aware of where you are, and if you are in an area that is known for ticks, then you really got to be cautious. But it's also it is the deer tick, and the deer tick has to be infected with Lyme. So not all deer ticks carry the virus.
Got it.
Carry Lyme. So just depends. Like there's areas in Connecticut where they know that 90% of the deer ticks there carry Lyme. Where I am in eastern Pennsylvania, it's a very high rate right now, and that's why there's so many people contracting the disease. And the other thing I always tell people is, don't think you have to be in the middle of the woods to get this stuff. You can get it in a field, in the grass. They call it a deer tick because the ticks do love to cling on to a deer. They love that warm deer body and dig in. But they're also in mice. So they're in a lot of high grass areas. So it's not like you have to go in the wilderness to find them. They're pretty prevalent these days.
Well, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Scarcely interesting. So, but that shouldn't stop us from doing what we love to do, running.
We got to do what we love to do.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So
life is short if you live a full life, man. So you better be doing what you love to do.
Definitely. Bart, we talked so much about so many different things, especially the last topic that you struggle. And if you didn't have that struggle, probably you would have been much different. I guess, I don't know what would have been if you, but you still made a great over the years, and you have done a great job in the running community. Even after your retirement, you're out there. Before we close our interview, just kind of give us a words of advice, your motivational thought for people to go out and continue to do what they love and continue to run and inspire themselves and others.
Yeah, so every run I do, the first thing I say to myself is, man, before I take one step, whether it's a race or a training run, whatever kind of run I do, I always thank, I'm very thankful that I'm able to do what we do. We can never take our running for granted because there's a lot of people that never have the opportunity to do what we do. We are physically able to do this, and we are lucky to have that. So I always say that to myself. And then I always say how lucky we are to culturally do this, that you can walk out your door and run free. And, I've traveled the world, and it's not that way everywhere. So we have it pretty good. So when I think of how lucky we are to have our freedoms and to, you're allowed to run wherever you want to run, and we're physically able to do it. That's the mindset to have, and then everything else is good after you start that run. But and the other thing is when I left my job at Runner's World after 31 years, people asked me, what message I would like to leave to the running community before I walk out of my office, and I did so many media interviews, and what I came down to is I wanted runners to realize how inspiring they are. They were inspiring to me. They inspire others. And there's a lot of people that don't realize how many people they inspire because they're just out there running and they love it and they do these races. But there's always somebody watching you, whether it's a neighbor or someone that, from work runners tend to be, they are inspirational, and some never realize it. So I always want people to remember how inspiring they are and share your story, share your journey, how you got into the sport and what you get out of it. Share it with others because you'll get people hooked on the sport and it'll change their life all to the better.
Definitely, Bart. To validate your statement, my life has changed for better from running. So
yeah, there you go.
I don't know where I would have been or what I would where I would have landed if it was not running. That first step I took and continue running for almost 12 years now. So definitely.
I like it.
So definitely. Thanks for your time, and hope to catch up with you and enjoy your retirement from the runner's world. But I think you're not ready to retire anytime soon.
Yeah, I didn't retire from running or the running community, but I did retire from Runner's World.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of MRuns Podcast. Please visit mruns.com to listen to our previous podcast episodes, links to our social media channels, get race photos, get discount codes, and more.